Hello, and welcome to Flix and a Six. I'm one of your hosts, Anthony Costanza. With me, forever and always, the man, the myth, the dancing clown, Alessandro Bielsi. Say hello, Al.
Hello.
On this week's show, we're going to get into the Halloween spirit, touch base on the state of Hollywood's sex scandals, talk briefly about the Fast 9 Furious, and finally dig into it. But first, Al, what are we drinking?
Sorry, I was just laughing. I love that the Fast 9 Furious thing has lived on.
I think we need to start a campaign that's what they need to name the movie.
I'm okay with this. So we're drinking a beer from Two Roads, which we did a few episodes ago. It's Two Roads Roadsmary's Baby.
Gotta love that wordplay.
Yeah, no, it was very clever. It is a scary good pumpkin ale. It's aged in rum barrels.
Why is the rum always gone?
Because it's being used to make barrels for delicious beer. Didn't we do... Not the last one. We did one recently that was a rum, wasn't it?
I don't remember.
I feel like we did one recently.
If it was recently, it wasn't that recent.
No. We did... no, when we drank the Newburgh stuff for the rehearsal dinner.
Ah, yes.
The sour was aged in rum barrels.
Oh, was that good?
This is an ale brewed with pumpkin and spices, aged in rum barrels with vanilla beans.
Gotta love them vanilla beans.
It says it's rated R for rum barrels. God damn it.
I love that. It's actually like the movie restriction font.
Yep.
And oh, that's awesome.
From somewhere between heaven and ale, comes this scary good seasonal.
Brewed and bottled by Two Roads Brewing Company, Stratford, Connecticut. Here's to taking the road less traveled in life and in beer. To that, I cheers you. That is a good pumpkin beer. I've had this one before.
Really?
I think this did make an appearance at one of the pumpkin beer tastings that we had. Whether or not it made it to the night of the beer, like when we all drank it, or if it was one of the ones that Michael and I drank throughout the week, hard to say.
See, it's funny. I've never seen this before earlier in the season. I saw when I was at a friend's house, they had them, and I'd never heard of it before.
The reason I remember it specifically is because, as we shall touch on it as always, the bottle art here. The little carriage that is also the face of a jack-o'-lantern is very, very wonderful.
Yeah, I remember... Yeah, I don't think this ever made it into the tastings. I feel like I would have remembered the name.
Yeah, we probably drank it all by the time that happened. There's a subtle... there's another subtle little design on here. If you look in the corners of...
The hands?
The hands are great. One's giving the okay, one's rocking on, one's throwing up a peace sign, the other one's giving a thumbs up, and they're all in like... I thought they were skeleton hands at first, but they're not. It's just in a broken background. But really, really cool. I dig the art. I also don't... There's on the back of the bottle, do you have this number 2?
Yeah.
Is that their logo?
Well, their main logo is the one that's up top with
right,
the two
with
hands which are crossing. But yes, I've seen this on their other bottles too. The number 2. Cool. I'm not actually sure what it's for though.
Nice. It's good as pumpkin beers go. It's fine. It's not like so many of them taste the same to me.
The nice thing about this one is if you like pumpkin beers, this is a pumpkin beer and not a pumpkin spice beer.
Right.
Because a lot of times they're kind of play around with whether it's actually got pumpkin in it or if it's just pumpkin spice.
Yeah.
So you can taste that this clearly has actual pumpkin in it. It does not have the amount of vanilla or rum flavor that I was hoping there would be.
No. I feel like everything's very subtle, though, which I'm okay with.
Yeah, no, there's no one overpowering thing, which is good.
Yeah.
I guess I was expecting a little more of that kind of residual sweetness.
Sure.
Especially at this being a little higher alcohol, 6.8%.
Yeah, it has a little bit of a boozy taste to it. I just imagine that's because of the rum.
No, that's from the alcohol content. It shouldn't have a really boozy flavor from the rum.
Wow,
It's not really imparting a lot of alcohol content.
No, but the flavor. Rum is a boozy flavor, obviously.
Yeah. Well, so when I think of boozy, I think of alcohol, not a flavor of a particular alcohol.
Oh, okay. I got you. No, that's what I taste. I taste like rum, like that flavor.
I mean, I guess it could be depending on who you talk to, but I think typically when you hear people talk about beers and saying that they're boozy, they're talking about the actual taste or tangible feel of alcohol content.
I kind of get that too, if that helps, but that's probably
well,
because I had another high one before this.
It's about 7%, and it's even though it's pretty dark, it's somewhat dark in color. It's actually, this isn't a very dark or very heavy beer, really.
Mm-mm.
I guess that's part of why I don't know why I thought it was going to be darker, so I thought it was going to be a little sweeter, but it's not.
I dig it.
No, it's a solid beer. Yeah, sorry. I guess that kind of sounded like complaining. No, I do like the beer. It's just not what I expected it to be.
It was a solid choice, though. Good find today.
Yeah,
for the theme.
I like the idea, since I wouldn't pick these up. Well, I picked up two of them, so you'd have an idea of something you could pick up. I like the idea of having this for a horror movie, having a beer named after a horror movie that is pumpkin beer. Recording, well, I guess we're recording the day after Halloween, but still
Halloween.
It's a Halloween-themed episode. It's only 2 days after Halloween that we're going to be releasing it, so any of you who are nitpicking, just suck it up and deal.
Yeah. Gotta have a Halloween episode. All the good shows have Halloween episodes.
That's a good point.
You know what I'm saying? Speaking of the Halloween spirit, do you have any Halloween movies that you go to yearly to watch to get into the Halloween spirit?
Not really. I mean, I usually find my way to watch Hocus Pocus every year. I mean, that's really my mom's movie. She loves that movie.
Oh,
I enjoyed it. Came out when I was a kid. I enjoyed watching it. I actually caught a bit of it last night. She had it on. Nice. It was on like repeat, all night. So
I love that movie. I haven't watched it yet this year,
movie.
But I will. I will definitely be watching it in the next couple of nights. Last night was Halloween, and we actually went to Sleepy Hollow. Your cousin of the show, Dominic Wales, sister of the show.
Cousin of the show and occasional background noise.
Yeah, so Dominic joined us. It was me, Kim, my sister, and Dominic. And we headed up to Sleepy Hollow, and we walked around as we found. Well, we got there late, and we were trying to hit. We got tickets to this dramatic performance of the Legend of Sleepy Hollow, and the story of Ichabod Crane. And we didn't know what to expect going into it, and we were like, Kim and I got there like just on time, where we had enough time to get to the place, but Dominic and Carly were a little bit behind, and then by the time we got there, we were like, we don't know if we're going to be able to get into this thing. And it ended up being like a 10-15 minute walk from where they had everybody parking, so I was like, uh-oh, this whole thing's going to fall apart. But it was in the church, the old Dutch church, and we get there, and they're like, the two women outside are like counting and scanning tickets, and they're looking at us, and she's like whispering, she's like, oh, okay, we'll bring you in. I'm like, oh god, it's like it already starts. We're going to be those jerks that walk in at the end, like after the performance has already begun. And we're walking in, and some guy's talking, but it's not the performance. And we sit down, and then like a minute or two goes by, and then they're like, all right, so we're going to get started with it. And I was like, nice! We nailed it. We didn't have to sit here and wait for a really long time for it to start. The show started with us, which was key. So then this guy comes up, and I still, at this point, we have no idea what to expect. And he walks up to the front of the room, and he's in a, that crate, like just old-timey get up, like that three-pointed hat. He's got these got these pants that kind of flare out a little bit, but they're up to the knees, and then the socks are tall and they're striped. And he's got like a little froofy thing on his chest. I don't know what these things are called, but you get the idea of what I'm talking about. And he starts going into this dramatic performance of the whole story, start to finish, and he was a wacko. But he was fantastic. He was so funny. And I was like, he does this 3 times a night, and it was like 2 hours long. And I was like, how are you up there doing this? And I don't know how you remember all this. 2, do you like it that much that you do this? Like, I don't. How does this start?
A lot of times I feel like with some of these sorts of things, like you can kind of see the people who enjoy it and the people who don't.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like in order to pull that off the way you're describing for 6 hours a night, you kind of gotta love it.
Yeah, and he absolutely loves it. We gave him the standing ovation at the end. He seemed very happy about that. He did have a buddy that played the organ and would occasionally jump in at like for a comic relief throughout the story. He didn't seem as into it.
Yeah,
which was clear.
Well, because the other guy's the star, and he's just kind of like the comic relief. Like.
Right. For the 3rd time tonight. But overall, it was a lot of fun. Aside from, like, early on for, like, maybe the first quarter of it, some other people came later than us. And maybe I wasn't in the position to judge because we were late. But we got there before the show started. And they came in, they're sitting down, and then he's talking to the woman next to him, and, like, she's having a coughing fit, and he's talking to her or asking her questions. But it's one guy at the front of the room doing this performance, and this guy, like, I hear this guy clearly next to me, and I'm like, did you just not ever learn how to whisper? Like, I don't understand. Like, I really just don't get what's wrong with people. And then eventually they started to leave, and I wanted to start clapping, but Kim stopped me. And then later on towards the end, the people on the right side of me, this woman was like, do you want to go? And I was like, he can hear you. Stop being so rude. Again, just learn to just whisper, you know? Just say it. Say it without vibrating those vocal cords so much, and everything will be okay.
I'm going to be honest. I kind of take it case by case, but I sometimes feel bad for people who struggle with the concept of whispering. So I feel like sometimes I struggle with whispering.
Uh-huh.
I feel like the fact that, on the one hand, I am just in general one of the louder people you'll meet.
Boisterous, even.
Boisterous is a good way to put it. When you get me going, I guess. I sometimes have trouble hearing on the very low end of volumes, or sometimes you're like, well, am I whispering, or am I not actually making a sound, and I'm just moving my mouth, and the other person thinks I'm maybe having a stroke?
Fair.
So...
But if it's not an emergency, I think you need to shut the hell up.
That's a good point, too.
You know?
That's what I said. I kind of usually take it case by case. Like, is this person trying to whisper, but the situation is too loud, the whisper is not making it to the desired person? Or, okay, you just can't whisper and you're a dick.
Right. Well, the thing is, though, the guy at the front of the room, straight wackadoo, right? But he's performing. And everybody else paid to be here.
Oh, yeah.
Just relax. Or go outside and do us all a favor and don't come back in. just stay there. Anyway, it was a lot of fun. And on the way out, we saw some guy that was dressed up as Beetlejuice, but like real good. Like it was a spot on.
Did you do a good impression too?
I heard just a little bit while he was talking to somebody. It didn't sound great.
Because I don't know your feelings on that movie in particular, but I know you're a big Keaton guy in general. So.
I love Michael Keaton. Oh, I love that movie, and I think he's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Are you a fan?
So, I know I saw the whole movie.
I wasn't expecting a story.
No, because I want to qualify.
Sure.
I know I saw the whole movie when I was young. Didn't resonate with me because it was probably I was not its desired audience.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like I was 4. And I basically kind of saw the whole movie a year or two ago, but I was drinking heavily, and the movie was muted. So I saw the whole movie.
Got it.
But didn't so much hear any of the movie.
Got it.
Maybe I'm not as familiar with the material as I should be.
Maybe we'll hit up Beetlejuice at some point. Maybe next Halloween.
That would make sense.
Could be a fun one.
So I feel like that would be in people's get into the mood type of movie for Halloween.
You know what we should do also? We should do a commentary track over Hocus Pocus while playing the Hocus Pocus drinking game.
We can do a drinking game episode, period. A whole bunch of different things. Like Mystery Science Theater thing, but not Mystery Science Theater, just us getting wasted while watching a movie.
Yes. It's been decided. this is happening. Anywho, You're not a fan of horror movies in general, right?
Not particularly. I just feel like a lot of them are shitty, and yeah, I don't know. I mean, they just don't do it for me. I just kind of get bored a lot of times.
Yeah, I hear that. I'm not a big horror movie person, but like I enjoy the occasional decent one. Spoiler alert. I enjoyed this one. I enjoyed it a lot, and we'll get into that when we talk about the movie. Other ones that I've enjoyed in the past, I really, really liked Saw 1 through 3.
Okay.
I really liked the original Paranormal Activity, and I think the second one was decent too, if I remember correctly, but because I don't remember that much, it can't have been that great.
Yeah.
But other than that, I've never been like super into it. I don't like the religious backed like horror movies like with like the devil and spirits and stuff like that as much. Like Paranormal Activity was okay for me, but like
I feel like because you were an Arnold fan, you were big into End of Days when that came out.
Oh yeah, but I mean that was just my blind love for Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Well, you said devil, and you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So
I'm talking like I watched The Conjuring, and that movie. that didn't sit well.
You must have been a really big fan of Bedazzled.
Bedazzled is fantastic. Not a horror movie. That movie is great. I'll defend that movie tooth and nail. I've got it right here, back behind me.
That's
dedication.
Actually slightly surprising.
Mr. Brendan Fraser.
That's a weird movie.
Yeah, I love it though. He's a funny dude. He can be really funny.
Yeah.
Especially in The Mummy. I love him in The Mummy.
Yeah, it's a shame that he didn't really pan out. Like he.
That was so mean.
It really was.
Oh my god.
I mean, there's like that span between like 1997 and like 2003 where he was like looked like he was gonna be a star, but he like just was like just a bright flash and then fizzled.
Yeah. Well, I like him, and now I kind of want to go watch Bedazzled.
I mean, no, don't get me wrong. I enjoyed Brendan Fraser and his big roles. I liked him in. He had a kind of limited run in a few episodes of Scrubs. I enjoyed him on that. He was funny. He played a dick, like you know.
Sweet. So I wanted to talk a little bit about these Hollywood sex scandals that are going on.
Yeah, there's no way that this is going to be a train wreck of a segment.
No, I just wanted to. Yeah, I wanted to get your take on this. So there's been a lot lately coming out.
If this was a visual medium, I would bring up the text that I sent a couple of weeks ago to a friend of the podcast, Victoria Rudolph, talking about the initial story with Harvey Weinstein, and we were discussing it, and I said, just you watch over the next few weeks and months, this is going to turn into a whole clusterfuck of everyone getting outed for this sort of shit all over the industry.
Yeah. Because
it's one of those things where, like, everyone keeps quiet and everyone keeps their mouth shut and, like, everyone's got each other's back. And as soon as someone's brave enough to do it and actually accuse someone who is a piece of shit like this guy is, then everyone is finally like, oh, wait, that person wasn't, like, publicly set on fire. Maybe it is safe to talk about this, and then the dominoes just all fall and everything implodes.
Right.
And that's exactly what we're in the middle of right now. It actually happened faster than I expected it to.
Yeah, so it started off with Weinstein, and then Spacey.
Well, there was someone before Spacey, I think.
Yeah, I can't remember who else. And then it was the one that I heard today. I feel bad if I
Brett
get it
Ratner?
wrong. What?
Brett Ratner.
No, I think it was like Dustin Hoffman. Was that?
There was that too. Brett Ratner was a bigger one, though. I think it was just like one accusation I saw leveled at Hoffman, just like it was one accusation leveled at Spacey. No, there was several women who leveled them at Brett Ratner, director and producer. There was against fuck's the guy's name? I'm so mad I can't remember. He's another old director.
Sorry, just threw my bottle cap across the computer. My apologies.
And like Woody Allen jumped into the mix to defend Harvey Weinstein, and like that's the last person who should be publicly defending someone for sexual assault stuff. Like,
right.
He has his own checkered past.
I mean, you basically mentioned exactly what I wanted to get at. It was just now the floodgates are open.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing. That's, I mean...
No, to be clear to anyone listening, we're not saying, like, this doesn't... I mean, we'll see, like, how it all shakes out, you know, especially in like, some of these cases of, like, the single accusations.
Right.
And any sort of witch hunt thing. But no, like, I'm pretty sure Harvey Weinstein's going to end up going to prison for all of this. And if not, he damn well should.
Yeah, his seemed a little rough.
You don't have, like, every woman in Hollywood accuse you if you didn't do it.
Right. But so here's my concern, though. These people that are, you know, that are, if you either sexually assaulted or did something along those lines to someone, you're a scumbag, and I mean that's clear. Yeah. There's no question about it. My concern comes with there's a stigma that comes with that with your name for the rest of your life.
Rightfully so.
Okay. Yeah, I completely agree. Here's my concern. There's people that also could potentially suck enough to start accusing people that didn't have something happen to them.
That inevitably ends up happening at some point.
Right, and I'm not saying that that's the case with any of these guys. I'm saying that if that does happen, you Google that person's name, that's going to be a result for the rest of time.
Well, and that kind of plays into the other thing that we haven't even mentioned yet is the whole thing with Corey Feldman.
What was that?
Corey Feldman has been amongst all of this saying that this has been something he's been talking about for years where people haven't been taking him seriously because he's Corey Feldman and maybe possibly a little bit insane. But there was like, after he came out and said this, people went back and found from like, it was like 2 or 3 years ago or something like that, he was on The View, I want to say, and he was talking about the Weinstein thing specifically.
Oh, wow.
And Barbara Walters basically told him to shut the fuck up.
Damn.
Like,
Barbara?
she was like, you know, oh, why, like, she's like, what are you doing? You're gonna, like, you're trying to, like, ruin the whole industry. Shame on you. Yeah. Like, she was shaming him for telling the truth about a horrible person who's taking advantage of a whole bunch of women. Like,
right. Ugh.
And I guess he's also in the middle of saying, like, he's going to be supplying names for, like, a Hollywood pedophilia ring, essentially.
Wow. It's terrible. Terrible news. Especially, and not that it makes it, like, it's not, doesn't make it worse. I guess it makes it worse for us as fans, but, like, especially when it's attached to a name that you love so much.
Well, that's something that's interesting because you and I discussed, and I'm sure we'll find a way to work it in some way, shape, or form, maybe multiple different episodes.
I didn't hear bananas. Sorry, I don't know if that's where you were going. I said I didn't hear bananas.
I don't know.
Spacey?
I don't know what that is. What?
Kevin Spacey?
No, I was actually going to go with Kevin Smith here.
Oh, okay.
I texted you a couple weeks ago and talked about doing it because I just happened to randomly throw on Clerks 2.
Sure.
And it was like less than a week after the Weinstein thing broke, and the first thing that pops up as I throw on the beginning of Clerks 2 is like a Harvey Weinstein production or something, or Weinstein Corp production. I was like, huh. And I was like, oh, that's like a name that like over the years, like I just vaguely am aware of, like, oh yeah, he's like that producer guy or whatever. Like didn't know anything about him. And then all of a sudden now because I'm like aware of him in, you know, kind of the public lexicon, like I feel like I'm seeing it like all over the place. I looked him up, he's got like 350 production credits or something crazy like that. But he produced all of Kevin Smith's stuff. And then I went into one of those weird, like if you've ever seen the Aziz Ansari like stand-up where he talks about going down like the Wikipedia like rabbit hole. Mm-hmm. And I like looked up everything that has to do with Kevin Smith and every movie he's ever made. Yep. And apparently he had like a long-standing working relationship with Harvey Weinstein from like the beginning. And like I happened to look up someone who was in Clerks 2. I was like, this person looks familiar. I was like, oh, she's been in a couple of Kevin Smith movies. Oh, it's because she's married to Kevin Smith. And there's pictures of her on the red carpet, and there's pictures of her with Kevin Smith with Harvey Weinstein.
Right.
And it's like, wow, like this sort of thing. Like, how many like of these types of like movies, or how many beloved things are like people not aware of that guy had like his fingers in? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
oh, that's just the phrasing. But
I apologize, was not going for anything.
But I agree, and like it's like when you see, I love watching a movie, and then like as the movie begins, like you see the production company, and those things, a handful of them will stick with me. Like I'll remember, like I'll think about a movie that I love, and I'll go back to the opening, and I'll play it back in my head, and that is definitely part of it. So now those things will be tainted.
Yeah.
Which,
by the way, like this is really selfish of us and
yeah.
other.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. We're not the victims.
Way down the list of concerns of people who were affected by Harvey Weinstein and his malfeasance. Like,
such an asshole. Take that away from him.
But yeah, it's like the things that you take notice of. Like if I had watched that movie a week before it came out, wouldn't have ever crossed my mind.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have remembered it when the scandal came out. Like, you know what I mean? Like when it was like first became public, like I wouldn't have remembered that was the opening to Clerks 2. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's just no reason for me to have remembered it. But now it's like it's going to be a constant reminder, and it's like that's one of those instances of like where like true power and the whole thing, like the old saw about corruption. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
But yeah, it's gonna, like you said, it's gonna shake up all of this, and hopefully the people who deserve it get what they deserve, and that's the extent of it.
Yeah. Let's move on to lighter things.
Or heavier things.
Well, we're not getting heavy. We're not getting heavy yet.
Shit.
I've got a good one here. This might be a reoccurring segment. Movie Pass.
Okay.
Still works. Moving on.
Then
I used it to go see it. That was basically that was the gist here. So I'm gonna check in because I'm sure like this is gonna be taken away from me at some point. It's too good to be true. That's my point. So I'm going to continue to use it, and I'm going to continue to check in with you and the listeners to let you know whether or not it's still a thing. As of today, still a thing. The next story, Fast 9 Furious. Before the show, what?
Fast
9. Before the show, I was scrolling through some movie news feeds that I go through to get prepped, and I came across the story that I then glanced at, read just a small amount of, and then decided that I don't need this anymore. But it was funny enough to talk about. It was a story about Tyrese talking about Fast 9 Furious and how if The Rock is in it, that Roman will not be in it. And I was thinking to myself, good, because your character sucks.
Yeah, I think that's something we talked about in like the Fast 8, the F8 of the Furious. Mm-hmm. I don't get.
Well done.
I don't get the point of Roman's character. He literally doesn't bring anything to the table. He's not even that funny as comedic relief.
He's mostly annoying.
Yeah. Like even the jokes at his expense aren't really that funny.
But like that statement though, like if he's in it, I'm not going to be in it. Like, do you think that anybody's going to be like, oh, maybe we should second guess putting The Rock in the movie? No.
You know what that is that's like one of those things where he's throwing up a Hail Mary here and like making Vin Diesel choose.
Yeah.
Because you're right, just some random producer or the director or whatever, like they're gonna be like, well, yeah, it's obvious, The Rock.
Mm-hmm.
But the point is, he's making that play to get Vin Diesel to step into the ring.
Sure. But I don't think he's gonna care.
Well, I guess it's playing off that whole thing with when it was 7 or 8, whichever one they were making it at the time, where Diesel and The Rock were supposedly feuding or whatever that was, and because this thing with Tyrese and him has been going on for a few weeks now, if I remember correctly. But it seemed like Diesel actually was like, yeah, like we'll get it sorted out. Like he wasn't like taking the bait.
Right. Yeah, well, we'll see what happens. I don't care. It was just funny to me.
The cast is too big anyway. Boot fucking Tyrese out. I don't care.
Yeah, or just do it anyway.
He's the least interesting character on the. I don't care. Like if he's in, if he's not in, it's not really gonna faze me either way.
Right. Screw it. Well, we'll see when it comes out.
I mean, I don't even like these movies really. So.
Yeah, you do. You might not like them, but we're going to continue to go and see them and talk about them.
Yeah, I know. Well, like I already told you, I didn't even see 5 or 6. I just read the fucking synopsis, and then I half-assedly watched 7 just so I could watch 8, and we could do an episode on it.
I like that. Half-assedly.
Yeah, I just created an adverb, so what?
I appreciate it. Let's move on to It.
Okay.
You ready for this?
Oh, I'm ready.
Okay, I've got some statements about this movie.
Okay.
This is a good movie. This is statement number 1. These are my facts.
This is my truth.
This movie is good. This movie is funny and has no right to be. This movie is heartfelt and has no right to be. It's creepy, but it doesn't keep me up at night. And it's actually a good movie. Like
solid movie.
Yeah, like well written, well acted.
Yeah, surprising. It's always kind of hit or miss when you have like a cast of largely children.
Yeah, who nailed it. Like nailed it to the point where when the sequel comes out and it's with the adult versions of them, I feel like they're gonna have some big shoes to fill, which is a really cool thing to be able to say.
Yeah, that was kind of a cool thing. Like the idea, like it's like the 2-part thing or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like in the aftermath of the movie coming out, everyone going out and like fantasy casting the adult versions of these characters and like who they thought would play them best.
Uh huh.
So I thought some of that conversation was kind of funny.
Did you have some of the examples of what people came up with?
Actually, I can find one quickly because I remember there was like an article on The Ringer where they did like a round table, like a few of the writers on like the site, and so like there's like 5 people with like their choices of like the 6 or 7, like whatever. You continue on. I'll see if I can find that.
Sure. So here's one option that they won't go for because it'll be too out of the spotlight to handle this. But how awesome would it be if they just waited?
Oh, like for these kids to be
like 26 years.
Yeah, they're definitely not going to wait.
No, they're not going to do that. But that would be so good. Oh man. I mean, I can't say that I necessarily would care when it came out, but me right now thinks that that's a cool idea.
Yeah, like if we what was that the movie that came out this year? Was it this year or the year before that was nominated for all that stuff? That was they shot it over like 10 years or whatever.
Boyhood.
Yeah.
That was good. I enjoyed that.
I didn't see it, but I would just it's like similar idea, or like that kind of reminded me of that.
So we just mentioned like these kids throughout this movie, they're fantastic. They're funny. I believe them. They're very real, which was like tremendous talent all around, and I can't wait to see what they do in like their next like sets of work they do. But I'd definitely like to follow their careers because just wow.
I guess the one kid is on Stranger Things, right?
Yeah, I actually just started watching that tonight before this episode, and I was like, all right, let's see what all the hype is about. And then watch the first episode.
The first season, then?
Yeah, the first season. Watch the first episode, and I was like, yes, I get it. I like this show.
Yeah, I don't know. A bunch of people said they liked it. A bunch of people have been pushing me to watch it. I haven't bothered yet. I might get around to it eventually. I don't know. It hasn't really called to me.
It's I think you'll like it. You'll just give it an episode. See what you think.
I got other stuff on the list first. So.
Sure.
Yeah. Anyway, so I found the article. It's not a full list. Like some of them gave their castings for everyone. Some of them gave for just a couple of them. Okay. So one person gave one for the whole thing. For Beverly, they had Maggie Gyllenhaal. For Bill, they had Freddie Prinze Jr.
Hang on. Hard pass. Next.
Yeah, I'm not a big Maggie Gyllenhaal fan either. You're not a big Freddie Prinze Jr. fan. I actually enjoy Freddie Prinze.
He grew on me after that thing you sent me.
The podcast?
Yeah. Which,
by the way, I am looking forward to their installment for this one. They've already said they're going to do it. I just don't know when it's coming out.
Awesome.
Yes.
So they have him slotted for Bill, you said?
Bill, Freddie Prinze Jr.,
okay.
Ben, Channing Tatum.
Huh. He's not fat anymore, like he's just ripped.
yeah, exactly.
I like it.
Like he's ripped and became a stripper or whatever.
Awesome.
For Richie, they had Andy Samberg.
Fair.
It's just the hair, right?
Yep.
For Mike, they had Derek Luke.
Who's that?
He's someone.
Got it.
No, I know that name, and I'm just struggling to remember what he's from. Oh, he was in the first Captain America. Oh, he was the one from Remember the Titans, I think, right?
I'm going to have to pull him up. Let me see. Derek Luke, you said?
Yeah. Oh, no, sorry, wrong football movie. Friday Night Lights. That's what he was from. Antoine Fisher, Friday Night Lights.
Gotcha. Yep.
He was also one of the Howling Commandos in the first Avenger.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Okay. Sorry, rest of that list. Fred Savage for Eddie.
Huh. Okay.
And Zach Woods for Stan. I don't know who Zach Woods is.
Woods. Let's pull this guy up. Zach.
Oh, and again, this was on the Ringer. To give the proper attribution here.
Right. Ghostbusters 2016. Oh, this guy. He's in Silicon Valley. He's fantastic.
I'm actually not a big fan of him, but
did you watch Silicon Valley?
I couldn't get into it.
Oh, he is amazing in that show.
No, you know what it is? He's the worst on what's it called? What the fuck is the name of that show? Wasn't he the one? Was he in the League?
I don't remember him.
Yeah, he was. He was lean.
Oh my god! Yeah, he was real bad on that. But
yeah,
good on him.
I cannot stand him on that.
That's cool. That's a cool. I accept.
He was kind of funny in Veep, though. He was in a handful of episodes of Veep.
So
that was one person's full list. The other one that had a full list here. This one I feel like they didn't take it seriously. Although they did have Andy Samberg again.
Okay. That's funny.
For Bill, actually, for Bill they had Andrew Garfield.
Okay.
For Ben, they had Tom Hardy.
They gotta stop. I'm thinking more like Josh Gad. I think they need to change this up, go a different direction.
I don't know based on the source. I don't remember.
That's true.
The original movie. I don't know if he was still supposed to be fat when he's older, or if he got skinny. I don't know.
That's fair. I definitely don't remember the original movie enough, and I definitely am not familiar with the source material. So,
for Beverly, they had Jessica Chastain.
Oh, but she's in everything. But that I'll take that over Maggie any day.
They're just picking redheaded actresses. That's fine.
Is that their criteria? That's it?
Well, the other one. Oh, actually, sorry.
You can dye someone's hair. It's not that big a deal.
Maggie Gyllenhaal, but the only thing I saw consistently all over the internet, and 8 people in this list had, everyone basically picked Amy Adams for her. So.
Oh, okay. I'm okay with that.
No, I'm fine with it too. I'm just saying, it just seems like everyone picked redheaded actresses.
Yeah.
So what's his name? Richie was Andy Samberg for this guy. Mike Anthony Mackie.
Okay, I like him.
I like Anthony Mackie as well. Although weirdly, another black guy who was in Captain America movies.
It's like they didn't search a list of actors. They just went to Captain America and plucked people out of it.
If you're gonna pick for the one black role in the movie, if you're gonna pick that movie to draw from, I don't know why. Largely white cast.
Yeah.
For Eddie, they have Milo Ventimiglia.
Oh, okay. This Is Us guy, right?
Yes.
Yep.
The only reason I know that is because I was walking through the kitchen earlier. My mom threw on one of the episodes from this season, and I saw that name flash up on the.
That show's damn good. Move on.
And for Stanley, they had Jesse Eisenberg.
Stanley. Oh, okay. Cool.
I've also seen some Chris Pratt's for Ben.
Okay. That I like. Then again, you could probably throw Chris Pratt in any movie and I'd be okay with it.
Well, good point.
But no, cool. I like that. I like that idea. I think it's a cool concept of, like the long span of a break and then you seeing what they do with these characters as they're older.
Yeah.
I think it could be, with how well this movie went, I'm very excited to see how the next one goes.
Yeah. It's funny, I guess, like, while we're at this, like, so you said you saw the original TV 2-part movie, right?
Yeah. Like, a really long time ago.
Yeah. I never actually saw it. Like, I've seen little, like, clips of it, but, like, I'm really not familiar with it at all, and you didn't read it either.
No, I did not.
I didn't read it. I saw someone who read the book but hadn't seen the original 2-part movie. So they were a little bit more informed than I was going in, but still, I think there was enough slight differences, I think, based on what I remember. Yeah, I went in on this with pretty fresh eyes. I didn't really want to see this movie. I saw this movie because you wanted to do it, but I ended up coming out pleasantly surprised. It was a pretty solid movie.
Yeah, like one of the... I kind of wanted to see it because I remember seeing the first one when I was younger. And then I was like, oh, I'd like to see this when it comes out. And then I was on IGN, and I read this write-up about the cast and how tremendous these kids were. And I was like, all right, this is even more of a reason to see this movie. And I was like, this is the reason why I want to go see it. And I am so glad that I did. Because as I mentioned before, they absolutely killed it. But like I said, very interested because the whole, depending on what they do with the second half of this, it could totally unravel.
What do you mean?
Depending on who they cast and how well they interact with each other. Like these kids, I believe that these kids are friends.
Yeah, actually, I think I remember seeing like photos of them like all together and stuff like that, like on the set, like in between like takes or whatever like that, and like hearing about them like doing pranks and stuff to each other and stuff like that. So it seemed like
that's cool.
They had pretty good rapport together.
Yeah, I like that. And we'll when we get into the spoiler territory, we'll get into like some of the relationships and some of the cool scenes between them and the fun there. But before we do that, the actor that plays Pennywise was not the original actor casted to play the role.
Yeah, since I didn't really care about this movie when it was like being promoted in its early stages, I didn't really realize, or I didn't remember. Once you mentioned it earlier, I did kind of remember, like, oh yeah, there was like a thing, wasn't there? Like where they had multiple people shooting the role or something like that, or.
So the way I understand, so the movie was like they were trying to get it started for a while, and it started like years back, and I do remember them announcing that Will Poulter will be playing Pennywise. And he was in... Did you see Where the Millers?
Yes.
He was...
Oh, It?
Yeah.
Huh.
So he was supposed to play It. He was supposed to play Pennywise. And
that's a weird choice.
I think he could have pulled it off.
Well, then again, the guy who played it is also a weird choice.
Yeah,
so.
Agreed. And I was like, so I thought that was interesting to me, and I was like, oh, like I'd be curious to see where this goes. I'm not going to tune into any more information about this movie. It does not sound like it's anywhere near being complete. And that was a very, very long time ago.
Yeah, this movie was a pretty long process to get made, if I remember.
And then so much so that I stayed away from the news about it for so long that I didn't realize that he wasn't playing the character until the credits rolled.
Really?
Yeah, I just assumed it was going to be him, and I was like, I couldn't know this because of the face paint. I'm not going to know that it's not him. I wasn't like looking for it to be him. I just assumed it was. And then when the credits rolled, I was like, oh, that's not him.
Well, I would have thought that the voice might have given that away because it's clearly not an American or British accent. And that guy's British, and he does a decent American accent.
But it wasn't.
Will Poulter.
It was a voice, though. It wasn't like it was a put-on voice. It wasn't like it was an accent.
No, but there's clearly an undertone of an accent in there. The guy is Swedish. Mm-hmm. It's Bill Skarsgård, who was featured in a movie that we did an episode already. He was in Atomic Blonde.
Yeah. Merkel.
What?
Merkel.
Is that his name?
I think so.
I wouldn't have remembered.
He was good in that.
Yeah, no, I liked him in that, and he was good in this too. Although, well, I guess we can get into that a little bit more later. I guess.
Yeah.
But I knew going in that it was him. I remember when I saw that it was going to be him, I was like, that feels like a weird choice. But I could tell it was him, but I also knew going in, you know what I mean?
Sure. I definitely did not, but I also wasn't looking because I just assumed it was still the character that was originally cast, the actor that was originally cast for the role, but I was incorrect. Overall, I would say if you can stomach a horror movie, if you can deal with a handful of jump scenes, it's not over the top. They're not doing it every 5 minutes. There's actual.
That's really that's something I took away from the movie is the most of the quote unquote scares are jump scares in this movie.
Yeah.
As far as I'd like to talk about it more after, but just as when we're doing our wrap up prior to going to spoilers, there was only really 2 scenes that I came away from feeling like that was a scary scene.
Sure.
That wasn't like a jump scare. That was legitimately this is scary on screen.
Yeah. All right, well, I definitely want to get into those. I will say though, for the jump scares though, because I'm not a fan of jump scares, only because I don't. It just always feels cheap to me. A handful of them will get me for sure. And if jump scares don't get you, you're lying. It happens.
Well, if they don't get you, you're watching movies that do it badly.
Right. So I mean, there's a handful of these jump scares that happen where you see it coming from a mile away, so you expect it and you know it's going to come, and it's not that serious. You don't actually feel that. You don't get that jolt out of it. And then there's a couple that are just. The super, super cheap ones are the ones where it's very, very out of context and it doesn't add anything to the scene. It's just to try and get you.
Yeah.
They actually, there was one in the movie, and we will get to this later. I'll keep a note to make sure that we do. That did get me, and I appreciated it because
there was 2 or 3 that were like, oh, yep, that happened.
Yeah. But overall, As like you're saying, those the scariest, quote unquote scariest scenes would probably be the jump scenes. There wasn't a ton of them. There wasn't so many of them that it was overwhelming. The movie is very good and stands on its own. So if you can deal with that and you're not a super fan of horror movies, you don't need to be. If you like a good movie and you can deal with that that aspect of it, just a little bit of it, I would suggest seeing it. Unless you're absolutely terrified by clowns. I mean, don't. But I don't want you to go through that. But if you can stomach that, it's totally worth seeing. And honestly, even if this is going to be one of those things. I really feel like these kids are going to do great. And this is going to be one of those things that you're gonna, if you haven't seen it, you're gonna end up going back to it to see where they started.
Yeah.
And it's going to be so clear because it's so clear to me now how good these kids are going to be. I'm very excited to see where it goes. And down the road, think back about this movie.
Yeah, I can see that. I would agree with your kind of general take on it. This is the type of horror movie that I would be, in general, inclined to watch because if you took the horror aspects out of it, it's a genuinely good movie on the merits.
Right. 100%.
So, I think it's definitely worth the watch if you're not wholly opposed to watching horror movies, which I usually am, and I enjoy this. So.
Right. So with that, shall we lift the veil?
Oh, yeah.
From this point forward, there will be spoilers for it. Let us begin. This movie has a soft open. It is heartfelt.
Wait.
Yep.
No. Before we get to the soft open,
okay.
I told you there was something that I needed to bring up.
Go ahead. It's time?
Yeah.
Okay, good. You're experiencing the movie.
Runaway Train of mostly us talking about the movie and whatever ridiculous tangents we get into.
Right.
So, I was supposed to go see this movie a few days before I actually did. A couple of my friends wanted to go and see it. They invited me. I was like, oh, can't make it. Like, it happens, whatever. So I ended up seeing it a few days later. I told them that I was going to see the movie, but I didn't tell them when. I didn't say, like, what day, the day I was going to see it. I didn't, I didn't go to see it alone. I would see it with someone, but I didn't tell anyone who I wasn't going with that I was going to see the movie. I was going to see the movie at 9:20 p.m. I went and double-checked to see, like, kind of the details on this. At 9:21, and I was running a little bit late to the movie, ran into the bathroom, was like, okay, I have, like, 2 minutes. Like, they should probably show trailers, which, by the way, they didn't. I literally missed the first 30 seconds of the movie.
Really?
Because I walked into the screen, like, at 9:22, and the movie was already going.
I gotta say, I think there was like 30 minutes of previews for me, which I'm okay with, but there was a lot.
Well, so, like, I went to a theater I'd never gone to before. It was just convenient for that night, and, like, so I didn't know what their policy is, like, because, like, some theaters, like, I go to around here, like, it's like 5 minutes of trailers, and some of them, it's like 30 minutes of trailers, like you said.
Right.
So they must have literally not played any trailers, or they played them before the actual showtime. Because it was a 9:20 show, and at 9:22, I had missed, like, the first 30 seconds. So I was in the bathroom. I'm walking out, my phone buzzes, and I'm like, I see the screen is, like, directly across from the bathroom. So I pick up my phone so I don't do the thing that you hate and look at my phone in the screen.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a text in the long-running group message that I have with a whole bunch of my friends, including friend of the podcast, Josh, supplier of Teddy Topper. So the text message was from Josh at 9:21. There wasn't an ongoing conversation going on there. He just sent a text apropos of nothing. And it was a gif of Pennywise.
That's creepy.
How fucking creepy is that?
That's terrifying.
Because, like, especially when, like, if anyone who, like, you're here past the spoiler thing, like, you know the movie, a big component of him is how he, like, breaks the fourth wall and shit. Like he, like, is in the projector and, like, he's in the books of history and stuff like that they're reading and stuff like that. And now he's in my phone as I'm walking into watching the movie.
That's great.
So, not a great way. Like, if you're someone who is, like, into, like, suspicion and this and sort of stuff like that, like, that was fucking weird.
That's really funny. God, what prompted that? Ugh.
I have no idea. That's why, like,
Your friend's a creep show.
Like, did I tell them I was going to see this? No, I didn't tell them I was going to see this. What the fuck?
Oh my god. So wait. So when did you walk into? Like, at what point did you walk in? Were they making their little boat? Like, what did you walk into?
Like, he was running in. I think he was, like, running into the room to ask him.
Oh, okay. So you missed absolutely nothing.
I don't think so.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, like, I assumed I didn't miss anything, but, like, I don't know. Like, I could have missed one line of dialogue. I don't remember.
So the movie starts off, like, and I had mentioned earlier, like, it's a soft open. It's nice. It's mellow. The brothers get together. The little kid. It's pouring rain. Little kid comes into the room. The brother makes him a little paper boat, and it's really sweet. And they seem like cool brothers. They seem like they're good to each other, and I appreciated it. Didn't fully get that he was telling his brother to go play in the thunderstorm. That's neither here nor there.
It's mean. It happens.
I do like it, so he goes down into the basement to get the wax to paint over the boat so that it'll float. Floating, big thing in this movie. But he's in the basement and he's freaked out by, like, these two glowing lights in the corner. And all I could think about, and I hope that you thought about this too, was Home Alone, when he's terrified of the radiator.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that was the first thing that came to mind. Like, I wasn't scared. All I could think about was that. Also, they had some weird shit in that basement.
Did they?
There were like these strange busts that were down there, and also this wax. Like, why? Whatever. But anyway, so he's very cool. He's got his brother hooked him up. He's got this sweet ass boat, the SS Georgie. You know, he's floating it downstream, which is basically the water.
It was bad karma. He named the boat after himself. You're not supposed to name the boat after yourself.
I bet that's a thing. That was probably intentional.
He lives in Maine. They're all about boats up there.
So he's floating it down the road in the gutter where the water is, and, you know, he's running, and you've seen this trailer. I'm sure you have. If you have a television, you've seen this trailer. And he smacks his head on what looks like a horse. Like, I don't know why he... I guess it's a barricade of some sort. I don't really know what it was there for. Anyway,
it was like a sawhorse thing for like road construction. Like they were like doing work.
Well, he ducked under one and smashed his head on the second one. So here is the first... This is the first part of the... This is like, we're like, I don't know, 8 minutes into the movie at this point, and already I have a conspiracy theory that the entire thing is a dream.
Like he got a concussion or whatever. Like.
Yeah. So anyway, so he's going down, running down, trying to catch the boat, realizes that it's about to go into the sewer, freaks out, oh no, looks into the sewer, and we get our first glimpse of Pennywise.
Oh yeah.
Right? And we're off to a good start. It is very, very different from what I remember from years ago seeing the other one, because I feel like they made the sewer extremely large in the original. So like his entire, like from the neck up is just clearly visible. He's like not in the shadows at all. And he's just a clown. But in this movie...
Also, you have to remember what the budget differences were.
Oh, 100%.
That movie was made direct for TV.
I will say that I found Tim Curry's clown makeup, just a standard clown makeup, to be a little bit more creepy than the creepy clown makeup that Skarsgård was wearing.
Well, yeah, because he just seems like a clown.
Right.
And he's going to eat you. Okay, great.
Right.
As opposed to the clearly over-the-top creepy clown where you know shit's going down.
So when he's talking to him with that weird voice that he does, and he's explaining to him why he's down there, and he's creeping me out a little bit. His
as he'll do.
As he'll do.
He's a killer clown.
And then he rips Georgie's arm off, and it's like this movie. I understand, like it's a horror movie.
Correction. He ripped Georgie's fucking arm off.
Yeah. So, but the thing is, like, I know where this movie's going. I know where this scene is going. But for whatever reason, it just seems so brutal in the moment. And I think what really does it what really kills me is the amount of blood that is in the water.
There's a lot of blood. I imagine if your arm is torn from your body, there's going to be blood.
Also, that old lady's a bitch.
No, I just think she didn't know what the fuck was going on.
There was definitely a kid there, and when the kid goes missing, she should probably tell them, hey, there was a kid here.
Not just when the kid goes missing. The kid goes missing and there's a suspiciously large, dark stain on the street.
Oh, what is the red water from? Anyway.
I will say this is one thing here. The scene was really good. And the other reason why the scene seems particularly brutal is that kid was so sweet and innocent.
Yeah.
Like, kudos to that kid, because he's clearly, like, the youngest of the cast.
Yep. Sweetheart.
And he nailed it. Like,
he really did. And, oh, man. I'm so glad, though, like, he is in scenes later on. That actor gets to do some more stuff, which is good.
That's why, like, I think he did a really good job, because he gets, like, 3 big scenes in that movie, and he nailed every one of them.
Every single one. It was great.
But that scene also is the beginning of kind of one of the gripes I have with this movie. A lot of the CGI was very cartoony.
Yeah, you know what, though? It didn't bother... I didn't care.
Well, because that was the thing, is, like, that scene should be terrifying, and I actually wasn't, quote-unquote, scared, because, like...
Fair.
I never sensed that someone was getting their arm torn off. Like it was... Like, it looked like it was happening on a cartoon.
Yeah.
That's fair. Like, ugh! Not like a, oh my god.
Well, I think that kind of adds... It takes away from one aspect of it where it's not realistic enough for that to be creepy or scary. But the movie... I still claim this movie is good, and it sounds like so do you. That's because like the rest of the actual aspects of like the storytelling are really good. So it's pretty cool that that's the case. Like it could have been, I guess, even better maybe if those things were...
that was like... I did enjoy the movie. It was a good, solid movie, but that was what kept it, I think, from being very good to great. Like... There was some of the big horror scenes that I was totally pulled out of the experience because of how cartoony it was.
Okay, that's fair. Specifically,
we'll get into
it.
The scene when they're like watching the projector.
Yeah.
Like it's just ridiculous, like cartoon action. You know what I mean?
Well, and like the creepy flute lady. That was like very.
That
cartoony.
actually kind of worked.
That got you? That was good for you?
No, not like. That's in a whole different direction.
I was hoping that you would catch that.
No, you caught my unfortunately phrased Harvey Weinstein comment, so now I caught your bad flute lady joke.
Oh man.
No, it's not that it particularly scared me, but like it creeped me out.
Okay.
Because like her face was all fucking like deformed and shit. Like, oh yeah, that is how that horrible painting would look like if it was alive.
Right.
It would look deformed and ridiculous like that. That's fucking weird.
Yeah, that one didn't. That one to me was silly. That one didn't actually get me at all. But
it was a silly thing to be like his biggest fear. Like, why was that flute lady his biggest fear?
Right. That's fair. But back to the sewer though. With it in the sewer, what was creepy about that scene was while he's talking to him, he's drooling because he wants to eat him.
So much drool.
And it's disgusting. And that aspect of it was creepy to me.
Yeah. Also, though, like, it definitely totally fit.
Yeah.
It fit like the creep factor. Like, oh yeah, that is how like an ethereal hunger demon essentially would behave.
Child
like,
eater.
Yeah. Like, oh, we're getting down to the moment. I'm gonna start drooling.
Oh, I'm so gonna eat you.
Yes, exactly. Yes, your fear.
Palpable.
You cut it like a knife.
So after George's disappearance, we take a little time jump. We get I'm not really sure how far it was. We were discussing this earlier, and I can't remember for sure. It was maybe 6 months, or I don't even know if it was that long. But it's long enough that it is okay at this point to assume that Georgie is dead.
Well, he lost an arm.
Well, we know he's dead. We saw it happen.
Yeah.
But I guess as you're supposed to, the parents are supposed to accept that he's dead. The brother clearly does not. Like that, and it's because he's a child, and it's fair.
Actually, circling back to that, ever so slightly, just the creep factor of that scene. His arm just continuing to stretch across the
yeah, I don't like that.
Yeah, it's pretty genuinely creepy.
Yeah, that was gross. That I remember. That's creepy.
That arm should not be 30 feet long.
Yeah. This guy's weird.
But yeah, going
clown
back to
dude's
the fact that
creepy.
kid cannot rationalize the trauma of his brother missing.
Right, and it's so we meet his brother at this stage in his life, and we meet his friends who will learn are the losers, which is cool. I like that they embrace their nickname of the losers.
It's the best way to do it. We have me and Caleb going back to high school. We had a group name like that we embraced that we won't be sharing on air right now.
Oh, what is it? I gotta know. Oh no.
Maybe off air.
Okay.
Definitely off air. I'll tell you the story off air.
Okay, off air, and I will definitely stop the recording. So we meet the losers, and this is the cast that I've been talking about this whole time. That are tremendous, and these kids, they're so funny because, and I know the lines are written, but the way that they deliver them, it's very much reminds me of being a kid with my friends, goofing around. Right?
How old are these kids actually supposed to be?
They're in, I'm not sure the exact age, but they're in some late level of grade school, I would think.
Well, depending on the scene, it seemed like they could have been anywhere between 6th grade and 9th grade.
Yeah. I feel like they say it at some point. Were they sophomores?
I feel like they couldn't have been above freshmen because I feel like it was a big deal that they were
Yeah, I will say one thing that made it confusing is Beverly looks way older than them.
Yes.
But she's in the same class as Ben.
What's that?
But she's the same grade and age as Ben and Bill, so...
Bill is the only one of them that looks like he could be a little older.
So maybe they're freshmen and they're just having an adjustment period. Maybe Bill and Beverly are going through puberty, but the rest of them have not. I'm not,
Well, it also could have been clearly Ben was pretty smart, so it could have been Ben was in an honors class that was with kids a grade older.
That's fair. That's a possibility.
So like she could have been a year older than them.
Well, I don't think she was though, because they were. I just assuming if like Bill and Beverly were to play together when they were younger, they were probably in the same age, in the same class.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point.
But anyway, girls mature faster than boys. Let's just go with that. She was old.
No, true, no, but it's just like it was one of those things. Like I remember like being slightly confused during it because like sometimes it seemed like they were like 12, and sometimes it seemed like they were like 15.
Yeah, I could see that. They definitely grow up a little too fast. They're forced to by the trauma.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
More on that later.
Yeah.
Not to bury the lead, but
Jesus.
more on that later.
So we get this cool cast of losers. Like it's funny. Like the mom jokes and like they're picking on each other and they're hitting each other and they're goofing, but they also have each other's back like all the way.
Also, I've never seen so many little kids, seemingly little kids, say fuck so often on
I know, and it's for whatever reason, it's so funny.
Yeah, it is.
And like the delivery of their lines is great, especially Eddie. This is what I was getting before the show started. I was telling Al that Eddie was my favorite character. Eddie's hilarious. He's a hypochondriac. He's terrified of everything.
Yeah.
And when he curses, it's just so perfectly timed. it's
you know what it was? Because those kids sold the fuck you. Yeah, we're kids. Yeah, it's weird that we're young and saying fuck, and we are owning it. Like,
yeah. Oh man, he's great. I love him. Love the losers altogether. But in meeting the losers, we meet these bullies. This really, what was the name?
Like of the bullies?
Yeah. Well, the main one. His name was
Henry, right?
Bowers. Yeah, Henry Bowers.
Yeah.
They would call them the Bowers. But like that kid's a dick. And so we meet this douche kid.
Yeah, you think he walked around with a fucking switchblade and liked to use it?
Yeah, dude. Jumping ahead, when he starts carving his name,
all sorts of fucked up.
That was unsettling. I was like, like I know this is a horror movie, but for some reason it's taken a turn, and I'm very uncomfortable.
Well, because you were watching brutal, visceral violence from one kid to another, like that.
Right.
That's a turn.
Not okay.
No,
but
and like
also
funny,
worth
like you were saying, like the whole thing with like, like watching these kids interact reminds me of me interacting with my friends when I was younger, right? And like totally right. Depending on like different scenes reminded me of different ages, and that's why I said like it was kind of incongruous for me. Like,
sure.
Like I totally remember like those years of like young like late childhood, like early like adolescence, whatever. Like,
yeah,
totally remember all those interactions. And you're right, it does resonate in that way.
Sans carving up the fat kid.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is, like, I remember quote-unquote bullies, and, like, I felt like after a certain age, like, it went from, like, you kind of quote-unquote, like, stuff the kid in the locker to, like, it was mostly verbal abuse. Mm-hmm. I don't remember anyone carving anyone with a fucking knife.
Yeah, that was intense. Like, that was brutal. But when he gets away from that, he does that little backflip over the bar, and I was like, God damn! And he's rolling down the hill. I'm like, oh, Ben, he's dead. But but he makes it, and I'm really happy that he does because he's a cool character as well. And his love of the new kids on the block is phenomenal, and the fact that it's brought up more than once is just really, really sweet.
Oh yeah,
I love it. He's great. So we meet the losers. We meet the bullies. As he's falling down through these woods, and this is where Ben meets the rest of them and kind of starts to become friends with them. Like they see him hit the water while they're in the sewer looking for one of the people that disappeared. They're really looking for Georgie, but they see the shoe of the girl. Whatever. Moving on. After we meet all these folks, we get into what Al refers to as the montage of horrors, and let's break this down. So
each patented, trademarked, whatever. Like,
what's that?
So we gotta get that patented or trademarked.
Yeah,
or whatever.
I agree. So the montage of horrors. We go through. We meet each kid and the thing that scares them. The thing that scares Bill it's very clear. He's afraid. he's so scared that he's lost his brother, and he has. So seeing his brother in these visions that he'll see later, like they really take a toll on him.
Yeah.
And he's trying so desperately to find him, and so much so that there's the creepy scene in Bill's basement where
that's the scene. That is the one true horror scene of this movie.
Yeah. I agree.
That scene like legitimately was scary.
So when he goes down there, the basement is filled with a little bit of water, and his brother's standing in the distance, and he's scared. And this is the part that's scary to me. It's the heartbreaking nature of the scene where he's confessing that he lost the boat and that he's so sorry and he feels bad, like he let Bill down. And you know that this is all in Bill's like psyche. Like this is what he's thinking in his head. Like, oh, like it's my fault that my brother's dead. Like I made this thing for him. He went out there. Like he feels responsible, and playing on that. That's the only reason that like it makes like playing on that. Like the brother feels like, oh, I lost the boat. Like Bill's gonna be so disappointed in me. That is messed up. Like this entity is in his head, screwing with like one of the darkest parts of his memories and like his thoughts, and that is terrifying.
Oh yeah, and again, the kid bringing it home, like he genuinely looks like a 5-year-old kid who's like so upset about losing this boat, so upset about like letting his older brother down. Like
yeah, like that scene. It's funny because there's actually what takes me out of that scene is the clown.
No, I never felt that it took it out, like, because it was... I actually thought it was kind of perfect to show you that right then and there they should be realizing what the stakes are, kind of, you know what I mean? Like, realizing this is more than just something that's not right, something that's scaring us. Like, that's the first time, I think, that they put the clown's face to the source of their fear, isn't it? That's before the conversation they have about seeing a clown.
Yes, it's before that.
So that's the only reason I'll disagree with, is because it was important to see that and to bookend that whole scene of like it being creepy as fuck, like how it's all set up. It's creepy. The kid starts losing control and starts screaming about floating and crying, and then like that was the only quote unquote jump scare where like the clown itself is actually horrifying.
Sorry,
because the way they stop motion shoot it floating across the water. Right.
I agree with that. So I'm not being clear, but like I wasn't explaining it well enough. What bothers me is like this. I don't like that weird like he like comes out of the water like it does that shaky head thing.
Yeah, so I thought that was pretty legitimately creepy.
Oh, I thought that made me not scared. That made me feel like they were trying too hard. Like if you have this scene, and this is how I know I didn't make the movie, and you can always say this like, oh, I would have done it this way, whatever. But if you have the scene, the kid is like that whole scene is heartbreaking. If during this, the clown is slowly floating to him, but they make it clear that he's still fixated on his brother and doesn't see him until like the last minute, where then he sees him and runs up. That would have done it for me.
Okay. The
forcing that, I feel like that little bit of like that shaking, like chasing after him thing, like that just seemed a little forced to me, and it didn't resonate. Like I didn't, at that point I was no longer scared or like feeling unsettled. I was like, this is just a typical horror movie scare.
Well, for me, I kind of experienced the whole like all the senses that you could in that scene, because the way they do the kind of Dark Knight Hans Zimmer-esque like rising of the tone during that scene as it becomes like more frantic and frenetic, and like it's like inducing anxiety in you. You know what I mean? With the kid starting to lose it and approach hysteria before his face, like that was actually the one part of it that didn't work for me. It was like they like fucked up the kid's face. You know what I mean? Yeah. When he starts screaming, "You'll float too," and then his face starts like turning brown or whatever. Like that didn't really make sense to me. And then the clown, like it was quote unquote scary to me at that point, because it was the clown not trying to scare him. That was a clown attempting to strike and claim its prey. Mm-hmm. That was like its wolf pounce on.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I understand what you're saying, but for me, that was why I thought it all worked together from start to finish.
I like where you're coming from. Did you see the trailers before you saw this?
Yeah.
I don't know if this bothered you at all. I'm wondering if it took away from the experience having seen, knowing where the scene goes.
Well, see, that was the thing is, once the scene played out, I knew it was the scene from the trailer. But I was kind of surprised because I assumed that was the way it was cut up in the trailer. I didn't realize that was in the basement. I thought that was going to be in the sewer. It looked like it was in the sewers.
Oh, I knew this was in the basement.
So I realized that's where they were getting eventually.
Gotcha.
Once, because I remember seeing the whole thing where we'll flow too, and it's like, okay, this is all that scene. But the way they brought it all together, and again, it was like that insistence of like I said, like the Dark Knight, like that keening sound rising, or like even the way that it was experienced in another Dunkirk, another Nolan Zimmer thing. The way that like the pitch and tone is rising throughout all of it, creating that anxiety, that insistence, like inside of like the viewer, like that all worked for me. That was the one where the hairs on my arms were standing up at the end of the scene,
cool.
And it stuck with me for 90 seconds after. You know what I mean?
Nice. Well, I'm glad it got across that way.
That was the only scene that I felt was genuinely scary. That wasn't like just jump scene.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
No, that's fair. And that's I don't remember order-wise if that's the first of the montage of horrors or not, but we also
It was kind of in the middle, because the way they did it, there was kind of each of them got a first wave, and then they each kind of got something that rose over the top of it.
Sure.
And it was around there that's when they actually kind of started putting it all together.
Yeah. Right. So let's talk about. So we touched on it earlier. The flute lady, the one kid that he's mostly just there, Stanley. He's not. I feel like he's not relevant for a lot of it.
Which one was Stanley?
Stanley's the one that is scared by the flute lady. He's practicing reading from the Torah, and he goes to put the book back, and the picture falls off the wall, and
because he was also wasn't he the last one? Oh no, Richie was the last one to actually admit to being part of the montage of horrors, right?
Yeah, but does he say? I don't remember what he sees.
He's the one who finally puts the word clown to it.
Yeah. Well, he says they're like, "What are you afraid of?" And he goes, "Clowns."
Yeah.
Yeah, that. That was a great line too. But did they do an actual scene with him and the clown?
I think he just saw him.
Yeah.
He was the one. Was it whether he was walking or driving past, where he was just standing in the middle of the field with the balloon?
Oh, maybe. I vaguely remember that. I don't know if it was from a trailer or not, or if it was
because it was Eddie who was the one who saw him hiding behind the wall of balloons.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think with Richie was
that
he
might
just
have
saw
been it.
One clown.
So yeah. So I think we got the flute lady, which you thought that was well done. That one just was whatever for me.
No, it wasn't. That wasn't one of the ones that I would have lumped in with the ridiculous cartoony thing.
Gotcha.
Because it almost had was it The Grudge or The Ring, where they had the fucked up face after they, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I don't know. I didn't see either of those movies, but I know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
That's what it reminded me of, so it didn't bother me.
Well, one of the ones I thought was cool was Ben looking through the book in the school.
That was cool.
So that whole
wasn't super cartoony either. That worked.
No, there's actually this scene creeped me out, and it's probably, I don't know if you caught it, but it might not be for what you're thinking. So he's flipping through the book. The teacher finally comes in, or the librarian comes and drops it off. And, she makes her snide comment like that he should be out playing with friends. And it's like, whatever. Kid's a nerd. Let him be. So he's flipping through the book, and he's trying... This is where you start to realize he's looking into some stuff that's going on in the town. He's looking at history. And it's like something awful that happened. And it was an explosion.
Yeah,
I think.
It was like a factory explosion or something like
so
that.
Here's the really screwed up part of that scene. And I hope you saw it too. The camera is on his face, and it's portrait style where everything else is faded in the background or like distorted. But the librarian is standing in the distance with a disgustingly creepy grin on her face, looking at him.
Oh, I think I might have missed that one.
And she's on the left side of the screen. She's in the distance and she's staring at him. And it is terrifying if you see it. And you're like, is she? And then they go back to him looking at the book, and then they pan up to him again. And it's starting to become more and more clear that she's creepily staring at him. And then the last time that they do it, they look up and you see the balloon float across the room.
Yeah.
And it's floating from where that librarian was standing in that scene that I'm talking about where she was creepy. But she's not actually there. She's on the other side of the room.
So the idea was it wasn't the librarian who came and brought the book to him?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out if I see it again.
It was that scene was creepy to me.
Because the thing I did pick up on, and I'm guessing everyone, picked up on is, as he's looking through it, you see the heads. You see the head up in the tree where, like, clearly when the picture was taken, they weren't taking a picture of that head, and it's like, oh my god, how did no one notice that head was in this picture?
Right, yeah. That was rough. And then,
this is a good time to bring up that thing I wanted to say, because when talking about looking into the history and everything.
Go for it.
And realizing that there was this whole cycle and there's every bad thing that ever happened. So, bear with me, audience. And Anthony, as I fill you in on this, because you said you weren't aware of this at all. I saw this a week or two ago. So there was a story about a scene that they filmed for the movie that never made the final cut because apparently it was too fucked up and scary. And I'm going to read some snippets of it. I'm going to paraphrase some of it. Some of it I'm going to read for you word for word because just to paint this whole picture here. So there was a scene that we shot that was a flashback from the 1600s before Pennywise was Pennywise. The scene turned out really, really disturbing, and I'm not the clown. I look more like myself. So I read that to you so you remember, because you asked me if something about, before we started the show, something about them explaining his costume.
Yeah.
So this was all supposed to be part of a backstory for the character.
Okay.
And these parts were quotes from Skarsgård. It's very disturbing and sort of a backstory for what it is or where Pennywise came from. That might be something worth exploring in the second one. The idea is that it was an entity that was dormant for thousands of years, and the flashback scene hints on that. So, let's see. There was a version. Here is the scene in full. So, this was from the script itself. In 1637, there's a well house. This woman named Abigail, a young mother, rushes in to her house and slams the door, as if trying to keep Satan himself out. She clutches her baby to her breast, kneeling by the dying embers in a hearth. She blows on them, but a flame never catches. Her baby starts to fuss. The mother hushes it. She realizes that the small candle chandelier slowly spins above her, as if some unnatural force has caused its light to rotate around the room, like tiny primitive searchlights. She sees a black silhouette, shifting in shape, as if trying to decide on a form. So then the woman starts speaking and says, "Please, devil, leave us be." Beam of light passes, revealing Pennywise, naked, live, flesh pale and translucent, a half-formed imitation of a human. It opens its maw full of large razor-sharp teeth, dripping with saliva. So again, that was kind of an important thing to them, I guess, right?
Okay.
So Pennywise moves counter to the way that the light is spinning in the room, and each time the light hits its face, it changes form to beasts, monster, man, woman, etc. And this part I'm going to have to paraphrase some because it's just a lot of dialogue. Basically, Pennywise is saying, "I'm not just the devil, I'm something more."
Okay.
And she's saying, "My child's innocent, leave my child alone." And he's saying, "That's what you say, but that's what I'm here for." And that fear, that's what I prey on, you know what I mean? And he says, I'll take the baby, and then I'll take your husband and the rest of your children, and then when all that's done, you.
Oh, God.
and then I'll eat you. I'll eat your bones. I'll eat your souls, etc., so on. So,
Oh, damn.
So then one of her other children comes out into the room and says, like, to the mother, like, what the hell's going on? And she, like, screams at the kid, tells him to go back. And she's crying, etc., so on. And, well, she's given a choice. Give up the baby or everyone dies. And
Ooh.
they shot this scene where Pennywise eats the baby.
Ah.
And you see it and hear it eating the baby.
Ah.
So they shot that scene, and Bill Skarsgård was like, yeah, it was all sorts of fucked up. We could not put that in the movie.
Oh my god. That's crazy.
Right?
Yeah. That's kind of cool, though, that was... I wonder, I have to get in touch with someone that's read the book. I wonder if that's, like, out of the book, or...
Yeah, I don't...
An interpretation.
There was something in, like, the... You know, I just closed the link. There was something in there that was saying, like... I don't know if it was kind of, like, mashed together from something, like, components that were in the book or something like that, but, like, I don't think it was pulled straight off the page, you know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah, wow. I mean, I could see why... I mean, the movie's long, but nothing seems unnecessary, so I could see why it was pulled.
And this definitely would have fit with all that, but it would have been probably 10 minutes of this unbroken, right?
Sure. I do wonder, though, I mean, there's going to be a part 2. There's always the potential to show that.
Well, and that's what he said, too, is that I think they're going to see if they can... He's like, it seems like the type of thing that we might try and re-examine how it might fit with the next one.
Right. Interesting. That's really interesting. Cool.
Yeah, I thought that would be a cool thing to like,
yeah.
Hear. I thought that was a fascinating scene.
Definitely.
But it would have been all sorts of fucked up on screen.
Oh,
like.
yeah, absolutely. That would have got... So... going back to Ben for a minute, so after he sees the balloon floating away and he starts following it, and like it's from this point on where his is just kind of bizarre, like with the headless guy walking down the steps and then chasing after him, and then you see in the class, that just seemed like a jump scare, which was fine. Like it wasn't too crazy. I guess for Ben though, like for a lot of them, like you're seeing like you're starting to understand like what their actual fear is. His is not very clear to me. I know that creeped him out because he read it in the book, but they never really dove into what his specific fear was. Yeah, I mean, there was a couple that, there was, I guess, half of them seemed pretty well developed what their fear was, and the other ones less so. Like Ben, Eddie as well. Like the whole thing, or not? Was that Eddie or was that Richie or Stanley? Whatever. Mm-hmm. Stanley with the flute lady, like that. It's a weird thing. Like your one true fear is like that painting, right? Like
you have one kid whose one fear is, oh my god, I got my brother killed. You have another one who is like the real fear of literally growing up is what Beverly's fear is, right? You have Mike whose fear is of his parents having been burned alive in front of him.
That one was brutal. That one was when they explained that one, I was like, good God, that's screwed up.
So like those are all like real, identifiable, tangible fears. Like totally get it, totally makes sense.
Yeah. And
then you have like kind of like you were saying, like Ben and Stanley, like where it's just like, what exactly are you afraid of?
Right, and then Eddie was clear too. Like he's scared of sickness and disease and anything that can hurt him, like that. And
well, yeah. And that one was fair too. Just a little less impactful than the.
Sure. But let's talk about Beverly for a second. Where it goes. What?
Sorry, talk about who? Sorry, I coughed. I didn't hear.
Oh, sorry. We're going to talk about Beverly for a second and where that goes and her fear. So that was a really cool, not cool play on the whole thing. Like I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but in the final, in the final act when Pennywise has her by the neck, and she tells him that she's not scared of him. That scene is intense because you know why she's not scared of him. The things that she's dealt with are
like
way
6 seconds earlier.
Yeah, but also it seems like obviously has happened before or something similar.
Sure, it's just like that was like the culmination of that whole years of fear, right?
Yeah, it's like she's like, oh, you're a clown with your hand around my neck? My dad tried to rape me like 5 minutes ago.
Like probably again.
Yeah, right. That was brutal. That did so. Her dad is a dick, and we get that pretty clear from like early on. He's creepy, he's inappropriate, and it's disgusting.
He's rapey. Let's just say
he is
there's
rapey.
Almost no doubt that he raped her.
That scene though. So again, we'll go back in a little bit, but jumping ahead to that scene where we find out like he's not just creepy, like he's legit like sexually assaulting this girl.
Yep.
She cracks him over the head with a real clever. You know, she grabs the top of the toilet seat, hides in the bathtub, and then when he pulls the curtain back, she cracks him over the head with it. And that scene was intense to me, and like that got like my heart racing because I was like, I'm scared for this girl.
Yeah.
Right. And then this is where the jump scare worked for me, and I was okay with it. She cracks him over the head. He hits the floor and he's bleeding, and I'm like, hell yeah! I was like, hopefully he's dead. It's like, screw this guy. Like, this is great, and you get this moment of slight relief, like she's safe, and then she turns and Pennywise grabs her. I was like, good God, what is happening? And I think at that point I squeezed Kim's leg extremely hard, where I think she might have yelled, but not because she was scared, because my reaction was scary. So but that's the type of jump scare like that. The way that played out, like that one worked for me.
Well, especially like they like you said, like they built the intensity, they built it up. Oh, she cracked him upside the head. I can like exhale. Oh no, God! There it is. Here we go again.
It's over. No, it's still so bad. That was good. So jumping back. So like we went through our montage of horrors. Following that, we talked about a little bit earlier about Ben gets carved up, which was I don't even want to get further into that. That was disgusting. That Bowers kid is a real freak.
Yeah, he tries to hate crime Mike.
But then we get montage of friendship, which is part 2.
Also patent pending.
Which is just wonderful. So like that was, and those scenes, like it's really cool because like you get more of like these kids, like they're cool with each other. They seem like such good friends. They seem like good people.
Yeah.
And it's just really fun, and it's like it's heartfelt, and it's like they're having a good time. They're not thinking about like these horrors or anything like that, and it's cool to see, and like you get that vision of them before like everything goes to hell a little bit later on. So I liked that a lot. So like from them, they're jumping off the cliff and swimming. That scene was actually really funny, where they're standing on the top of the ledge, and they're all in their underwear, and they're like about to jump in, but no one is brave enough to do it first. And then Beverly shows up, and she's just like, I'll do it. And she just runs past them and jumps in. Like that was really funny.
Oh yeah.
That whole scene. And then like you get this really cool, like again, like they drive the point home, like these kids are good people.
Yeah.
And like the scene where what's his name? Mike was Han. I feel like they said his Hanlon. When he was the Bowers was like they were like beating him up. It looked like they were like ready to kill him. It looked like he was gonna hit the kid in the head with a rock.
Not just looked like, he was, I'm pretty sure, just about ready to do it.
Right? Okay, so
he had the rock, and it was above his head, and it's like, now we're going from bullying to full-on hate crime.
Right.
Please don't bash this kid's head in with this rock.
It's like, oh, this is no bueno. And then the losers come, and they start throwing rocks, and it is a great scene.
Rock fight.
It was awesome. Like they ganged up on them, and they just started chucking rocks at them, and they got them to retreat, and it was just like such a victory.
Oh yeah.
And it's such a fun scene, and it's like it's cool because like you're getting this glimpse of together, they can get some shit done.
Oh yeah.
Which is important for later.
And like it was also kind of just like a great cathartic like moment, right? Like it's just a bunch of like idiot kids like whipping rocks at each other. Oh my God, he just got cracked in the skull. Like, yeah. That
was insane. So we also get the glimpse of the love triangle, and I mean, it doesn't really play into it too much in this one. It seems like it's probably mostly set up for the second half of the story.
You say that, but again, I still haven't like a ace in the hole on this whole story.
Okay, when does that come out?
When do you want it to come out, man?
Well, we're talking about the love triangle now.
No, you know what? No. Like, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it when we're getting towards the end of the actual movie.
Okay, so we got the love triangle.
That's where the scene occurs.
Gotcha. Of Ben and Bill and Bev. Huh. Just dawned on me that they all start with B's when I said it out loud. Cool. But
I'm not going to say anything. You can see that I'm shaking my head in disapproval.
Yeah. I didn't do it.
No, the way that you came to that realization.
Well, anyway, I feel bad for Ben the whole time because she thinks so. He writes her that sweet little poem, that sweet poem, and she thinks it's Bill. Yep. And
confirmation bias.
And they've got it. I mean, they're only like 4 years old, but somehow they have a history, which is kind of funny. So that was heartbreaking to find out that basically Ben, you know Ben wrote it, and I wasn't clear to me that she thought Bill wrote the poem when she was reading it. I thought she realized at first, but it turns out not the case, and that made me sad.
But she figured it out later.
She did figure it out later, yeah. But at the time when she's reading it and she's all excited about it, she's thinking about Bill, and that wasn't clear to me. And when I realized that was the case, that's when I was upset. Because I like Ben. I like Ben and his and the fact that he's a hardcore New Kids on the Block fan, which is just wonderful. So they're all friends now, and they come to the realization that this clown is terrorizing their town, and they figure out. Ben figures out the pattern that it's like every 27 years or something like that.
Yeah, because that's the whole point of why the second one takes place that amount of time later.
Right. And then, so Bill is not convinced that Georgie's dead. Like, he still wants to, he wants to find him. So they go to the house where they realize, where it lives.
Yeah, because Eddie had gone to that house?
Yeah, that's where Eddie saw him there, and it was trying to draw him in.
Yeah.
And so they go into the house, and we get into, I guess another montage of horrors, a quick cut of montage of horrors in this house.
Well, especially, that was pretty important, because to, what you were saying, after they go through the montage of horrors and the montage of friendship, they're all together, and they realize how strong they are together.
Right.
But then the house immediately breaks them up.
Yeah.
And that's what makes them weaken again.
Yeah, and it's intense, because, it's well done, too. And you had mentioned before we started here, this is where it's in the house that they deal their first actual blow to the villain of this movie.
Yes.
With that, they drive that spike through its head. It's almost they did hurt it, but that's not what did it.
It was the lack of fear. It was
right.
It was the fact that they had the balls to strike at it.
Right. It wasn't the physical act of striking it as much as it was. Yeah, like you're saying, not having that, that's a really cool concept. I like that, and
yeah,
that was fun. And I knew where that was coming from, but I also have the background, so I imagined that was clear, and it sounds like it was clear to you. I don't know if it was clear after the fact or then.
Yeah, I guess it was. Well, it was throughout the course of that scene. As that scene wrapped up, it was the whole point that it was the audacity to strike, basically.
Right.
Because it wasn't just a flail; it was fuck you.
Yeah. So, but after all that, when they leave the house, that's what you're talking about. They kind of that's where the split happens, and they all pulled in separate ways. And Georgie still wants to go and he wants to fight it. He wants to finish it off.
Bill.
But I'm sorry, Bill. But everybody else is hey, screw you, guy! I'm not going back in that house. Which perfectly. Let that be enough. Perfectly acceptable response to have. And poor Eddie with his broken arm, and then his crappy mom.
Not was crappy, like full on Munchausen syndrome mom.
Yeah, that whole thing was twisted.
Actually, yeah, for like as much as it was fucked up, and yeah, probably more fucked up, Beverly and her dad, but I guess it's because they spent more time focusing on how fucked up it was.
Yeah.
That it kind of fell through the cracks up until the end.
Mm-hmm.
That Eddie was treated nearly as badly by his own mother. Like,
right. Yeah.
The fact that she was like literally smothering him, actually affecting his health as well with the medicines and the fake medicines.
Right.
And how she's like, it's literally the Munchausen by proxy thing, like just minus her intentionally getting him sick,
right.
Which is like the worst form of that.
Ugh, that whole thing was creepy. Those are the unsettling things in the movie. But so it breaks them up, and this is what leaves us open to come to the conclusion of this movie, like that together they can defeat it. And this is the part of the movie that confuses me a little bit. So we talked about this a little bit earlier, where Bev is being assaulted by her father, and she knocks him out, and then all of a sudden it grabs her, like she turns. It's a quick cut to the right, and his hands around her neck, and he lifts her up. What's not clear to me is I don't know what his limitations are.
Yeah, is something that's confusing, because in certain scenes it feels as if he has absolutely no limitations. And other times it feels like he fits perhaps some sort of code of what he can and can't do. Right. Which it does feel a little inconsistent within the structure of the movie itself.
Right, because in that scene, before that scene, my understanding was that he couldn't take anybody unless they entered like his domain, whether it was the sewers or the water around the sewers, that he couldn't do anything.
That seemed a little unclear too. Like actually the way I had interpreted it was not so much whether they entered the sewers, but that more like that was where he was at his strongest. Okay. Because like Jordy doesn't enter the sewer; he's just very close to the sewer. Right.
Right.
Remember, he almost gets Bev in the very beginning with the hair coming out of the drain.
Oh, yeah.
And when Bill goes into the basement, he comes pretty close to catching him there as well.
Right, but I was just assuming like a sub pump kind of deal. Like I didn't know. I could accept that as still being part of like the sewer system.
Well, yeah. Well, I guess, and not to that extent, I was kind of agreeing with you, like those being kind of power bases, but like not the sewer itself. But I don't know if we're meant to believe that he can't take you if he's there. Well, because it wasn't just in the sewers. I guess it was more when you're secluded and alone, and I guess that's the times when fear strikes you the worst.
I guess
it seems more, I think, tied to whether you let the fear give in, like whether you give in to the fear, right?
Yeah.
Because Bill was pretty close to giving in to the fear when she's like in the basement and he snaps and runs. Finally, when she's in the bathroom and he grabs through the thing, she's in a moment of fear there, right? Because he's calling up to her, asking her what she's doing.
Yeah.
And with Eddie, he's like having a panic attack because he dropped his pills, right? And he's right in front of the house. But to your point, the scene where Beverly actually gets taken, she had seemed to have conquered her fear at that moment.
Right. Maybe she hasn't come down from it yet.
Come up in her house and grab her. So that does seem inconsistent.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could take it as like, you don't come down from that quickly, so she could still be terrified.
I guess so, but you would think that if there was ever a time that she was going to be able to fight back, it would be then. Right.
Yeah, I don't know. It's unclear. It's not a deal breaker for me by any means, but it was.
No, but it does
unclear.
It does seem to fall prey to the whole like for plot's sake thing.
Yeah, I can see that. But I guess like if you do accept, like if you make that the rule, like where when the person is most afraid, I would budge a little bit and say that she's still terrified. She's going through an extremely traumatic experience at the time. Even though
true, but I always viewed it more as like when the fear makes you weak, and in that moment, the fear had made her strong. You know?
Yeah. It's interesting. So I will say that part of it still is confusing, I guess. What gets how does he take her? But nonetheless, he does. And our friends, the losers, they band forces again, and they decide to descend into the sewer and get their friend back. And this is such a cool thing. I loved it. Like when they were getting back together, like when Eddie gets the call on his phone, and he picks it up and he's like, "What do you want?" And then they explain it, and he's like, "Yeah, I'll be there." And like he's leaving the house, and he stands up to his mom, and he runs out. Like the whole thing was just like so triumphant.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that. But then in between this, we get the thing that was either a little rushed or forced. I don't know what. But the Bowers kid.
Thing, like, it would have been better if they introduced it a little earlier in the movie.
The Bowers kid thing?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. Like they
planted the seeds with the way the father treated him and the fear when he loses the knife and all that stuff. But then there was a big gap before they actually got to that point.
Yeah. And
then it's so late in the game when he actually falls prey to it. And, the fact that he, brainwashed him, I guess?
Yeah, I don't really know. I guess because he's weak, and I don't really get it. It was abrupt.
Because there was kind of a setting the table for that. If you remember earlier in the movie, there's a couple times this, for whatever reason, was a recurring thing. I don't know if it was. I guess the way I would explain it, the way I interpret it was. You notice there's a couple of times where there's a parent sleeping in the house and they have the TV on, and it ends up being on TV in the weird children's show. Mm-hmm. So I guess that those adults don't appeal in the same way as the children do.
Say that again?
I guess that the adults and their fears don't appeal to it or to Pennywise in the same way that the children's do.
Right.
So I wondered whether that was its kind of version of, well, if you can't beat them, join them type of thing, where it's like...
Oh, that's interesting.
I'm not going to waste my time trying to hunt you down. I'm just going to make sure you get out of my way.
Yeah.
And so he kind of uses that, TV show thing to... Because every time you see a TV show, there's an adult in the room sleeping through the show.
Yeah.
As if it was, almost, used to put them to sleep so that it could get its work done.
Right. That's interesting.
Every other time that happens, one of the kids comes into their house and they just walk past the TV and ignore it. And when Henry comes into the house, he's utterly possessed by it.
Right.
And you could kind of see that coming away, what the fuck? It felt different, right? It didn't feel like it was going to come there and attack it. It felt like it was trying to do something, and it sure did.
Yeah. Okay. So if this adds to my confusion, though. I didn't think of this before when I brought up the Beverly thing, but I had thought about it after I saw the movie. I was wondering if the reason to possess this kid, like you're saying, was for him to do the dirty work for him because he couldn't do it, because he couldn't physically get them where he needed them.
Yes, I think I know where you're going with that, right? It would have made more sense if it was Henry that actually kidnapped Beverly and brought her to the sewers.
Exactly.
Yes, I totally agree with you.
That would have cleared it up, and that would have made it... That would have just made so much more sense to me.
Yes, no, I kind of had the same thought as well after I was done watching the movie.
Yeah. Very strange. Whatever, it has its little flaws, but it doesn't... Again, it still doesn't completely deteriorate the movie or anything like that. So that's
and
fine.
Also, we're both at a loss here. If that's shot for shot how it happened in the book, then it's a failing of Stephen King's, not of the makers of this movie, right?
Right. Oh, that's fair too. I'd be curious to hear from someone that knows the source, or to read it myself. But I'm not super interested.
That's probably gonna be a long fucking book.
Yeah. So we get Psycho Killer now, murders his dad, and then
Which, that was all sorts of fucked up, and you could totally see this coming. He's like, oh, he's gonna slit his throat good.
Yeah. He's gonna do it real good. Ain't no coming back for him.
No.
So we got this little the kids are going down the well, and Mike, right, is at the top.
Yep.
And this douchebag attacks him.
Hate Crime Part 2.
Hate Crime Part 2. But Mike prevails, and he ends up kicking him down the well, and I think I cheered. Either that or I was just like, hell yeah! Like, what is that?
Justified, very justified.
As it happened. But he falls down the well. And I think, so we're going to talk about this at the very, very end, but he falls down the well and he screams on his way down, and then that's it. That's the last we hear of him, see of him. It's, you would think you're falling down this gigantic well. He's dead when he hits the bottom. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. I don't know. I feel like there might be more to it. And there could definitely be something with this with the original story as well. I kind of like that. I don't know. We'll see in the second one if anything more comes out of this. We could jump there now. I don't know if that has anything to do with like how it comes back. Like I had mentioned to Al before the show started, I was wondering if when it goes down the well at the very, very end of the movie, if he comes across this kid that is maybe still partly alive and feeds on him.
Yeah.
And maybe that sustains him for the next 27 years.
That, you did bring that up, and that did interest me some, because I don't know exactly the details on all of it, but I had wondered, and I don't remember if this is wholly my own kind of thoughts on it, or if maybe I read something that influenced it as well. But because the whole thing at the end, when they make the pact, right? Like, we'll never let fear take over our lives or whatever again. Except when they come back and they're adults, like fear is, I think, taking over their lives again. Mm-hmm. So I wondered whether that's what brought it back, or if it's maybe a combination of the two.
Yeah.
Like there's just a little bit of it hanging on, and their fear gave it its ability to come back in full form.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll have to see, and I have to believe that he has something to do with it, because otherwise there's no point to the whole thing.
To him.
To Bowers at all.
Yeah, there's probably not. You're right.
It's got to be something.
I guess you're right. If he didn't survive and meet them again, or if he didn't provide sustenance to Pennywise in that time, then that part of the storyline feels even more heavy-handed and shoehorned in a way it didn't need to be.
But like you said, shoehorned in, but for what? Nothing comes of it. So I have to believe that it has some impact later down the line.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
So I'm curious to see where that goes.
It should at least.
So we get down. As we're going down into the well. I was before this. They made a pact. We're not leaving anybody behind. They convinced their other friend, the one that was afraid of the flute. What was his name again? Stan. They convinced him to come with them because he was probably the least convinced.
The one who's afraid of the flute.
Right.
And after all that, didn't the flute lady try and eat his face?
Yeah. See, that's the screwed up thing. Because they said they were going to stick together and they weren't going to split up. But
that was his fault.
That was his fault, right? That's exactly where I'm getting with this. He left. He walked away.
And then snaps and gets mad at them, and it's like, you guys left me. It's like, no, you wandered off, dude.
That scene was gross while it was feasting on his face.
Yeah, that was the second of the two. A little bit less than the first one, but that is what I said. There was two scenes that I found legitimately scary. That one was pretty fucked up.
Yeah. Unsubscribe. That was.
What?
I said unsubscribe. That was gross. I don't want any part of that. But then after all that, we get into the battle royale, which was one of the coolest parts of the movie. So they find Beverly, and she's floating in the air, and they go and they get her down, and they fight it. Georgie comes about. Bill realizes what he has to do, and shoots him in the head with the cattle thing.
For just a half a second while that was going on, I wondered whether or not it was actually Georgie.
Oh my god! If it wasn't, if it was him, I think, and he actually kills him, I think then he would have been really afraid, and then I think they all would have died.
You know why? The only reason I thought was because he was missing an arm.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't missing an arm when he sees him in the basement.
Right.
So that was the reason I was like, because there's no reason he would have known that he was missing an arm. So there's no reason for Pennywise to be in that form.
There is. He tells him that he ate his arm.
Did he?
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
He says something about like how it tasted so good.
Huh.
When I was eating your brother's arm or something. That was like the first.
No, that was after, wasn't it?
No, that was up in the house the first time.
Was it?
I'm pretty sure.
Maybe you're right.
Which would, I guess, that would give it a reason for it not to be there, and for him to think that it was actually him.
I guess so. Either whether he did or didn't, that was the reason that I had just like a 10% like, oh my god, is he actually still alive? Because he was missing the arm. Otherwise, it would have been like, okay, it's just like he's doing it again. Like the final chance, the final temptation to try and get him to succumb to the sphere. But I did love it. He's like, but I know what I have to do, and just stabs the shit out of him. He's like, I can't believe he actually had the balls to stab him in the little kid form. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was crazy. But the scene where the scene goes, which is really cool to me. So we get that, and that's like we know Bill's not scared at this point. Like Bill gets it. So, but then it becomes very clear that it can't just be Bill. They all need to figure this out. And the scene where where Pennywise has him and he's like pleading with him, he's like, just go, like this is my fault, I brought you here, just go. And Richie owns the show, and he says, he's like, you brought me into this house, or you brought me into this hellhole, then you punched me in the face, now we're back down in the sewer, and I have to kill this fucking clown. I laughed out loud. I was hysterical at that scene. Like, that was so well done. And at that point, you're like, oh, these kids are all in, and like they're just beating the hell out of this clown, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
And like you see them each overcome their fear in one way or the other, and they're able to do that because their friends are there with them. Yeah. And it's such a cool scene. But that line was so funny.
Like the piteous, pathetic, like sounds that like Pennywise is making throughout it, like after he was the one in power the whole time, all the sounds are made to make them scared, and now it's like, oh wow, it's a little bitch. Like he's the one who's scared now.
Right. Oh, that was so awesome. And then he disintegrates, and he falls. The rest of him falls down the well at the end, and it was just, and there he goes. It was cool. Now, you were going to say something about this part here, I think, when we were talking about how they got Beverly down, and he kisses her and snaps her back to reality.
Yeah, so I had to do a little bit of background on it. This is not a scene that was in the other movie. The first time I encountered this story, I thought it was, but I wasn't 100% sure. But it's a scene from the book. So after they defeat Pennywise, when they're leaving, apparently there's a cave-in in the tunnels. And the way they're quite sure they're going to die, and the way they get through it is to have a gangbang.
What?
Yep. I'm just going to let that settle in. Because anyone who's listening to this who's a book reader knows that this is what happens, and anyone else...
Wait, I don't understand.
Well, let me give you some more information. After defeating it, the kids get lost in the sewer tunnels on the way out. This is attributed in part to the fact that they're losing their connection to one another. The solution is to bind them together, which Beverly, the only girl in the story's main group of protagonists called the Losers, says can only happen if each of the boys has sex with her. Where they're timid and unsure, she's confident and maternal.
This is from the book?
Yep. Well, this is an article about this scene from the book.
And you're saying this happens at the end after they defeated it, like at the portion of the movie where they defeated it for the last time?
Correct. So, you remember that scene that you were saying was awesome where they have the blood oath? This is what actually happened.
Oh, God!
Because it just said they were losing their connection to one another. So then it says the sex is a quote-unquote consensual gangbang, with each of the boys losing his virginity and thus entering manhood through Beverly.
What the fuck? Why? What? What? I like the Blood Oath.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ugh.
Way better. Which, like, the Blood Oath thing already is, like, kind of creepy in general.
Yeah.
But infinitely less creepy than Stephen King writing a story in which a bunch of 12 to 15-year-olds fuck each other.
Why? Why? I don't like this.
Yeah, the rest of you, now that you know what it is that I'm talking about, can look it up at your own discretion to try and understand the whys and wherefores. Supposedly, a few years ago, Stephen King tried to clarify. I read a little blurb of that. It seemed kind of like a little bit of cover your ass. He's like, oh, it's not about the sex. It's kind of about the sex. It's a little bit more than a little bit about the sex. It's weird.
I don't like it.
These aren't adults. It's weird.
I don't like it at all.
No.
That's unsettling.
So, it's a good thing that both movie versions chose not to do this, because what the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah, like... What the That's... And with the...
For those of you who are just listening and are unable to look at the camera in the way that I'm looking and watching Anthony interpret this news.
I'm distraught. That's not okay with any of this.
It's kind of late while we're doing this, so I don't think he's there 100% right now.
It's not okay. It's not okay.
It's not okay. I don't know how that got published.
Especially it's not okay on its own. It's even more not okay with all of the trauma from her father.
Yep. I guess his excuse was that it was her choice, not theirs.
I don't like it.
No, there is a lot of problems with this, and it's like...
Not okay.
I think this book was published in 1986, like... That's 30 years ago, so it was a different time, but it wasn't that much of a different time when it came to child pornography.
God, what a... I got nothing. I'm done. Do you have anything more to talk about with this movie?
Well, I didn't mean to completely ruin it, man.
That's unsettling.
It seemed like that was kind of important to mention. Like,
I don't like it.
Yeah, you shouldn't like it.
I'm glad you brought it up.
I mean, it was relevant to this whole thing. Like, how did no one think that was something that should be deleted from that book? Like, I get it. By the time 1986 came around, like, Stephen King was already a household name. He had a whole bunch of bestsellers. But, like, I feel like as you're a publisher, you still kind of got to draw a line somewhere.
Yeah.
Be like, hey, lose the child sex.
In the sewer.
In the sewer.
With all of them. Okay.
Yeah, so the only other note that I had, moving on, powering through this,
thank you,
was I liked Bill Skarsgård in this role, but I didn't think we got enough of him. A lot of what was going on ends up being that CGI stuff where it's not really him acting anymore, and it's just sounds.
Right.
But the big scenes that he gets, like the very first scene with Georgie, a couple of the one-on-one scenes he gets talking to each of the characters, he's creepy.
Yeah.
Like, really creepy. He does a great job. Like, the whole thing where he's sitting there in the sewer and he's drooling, like, that's a good job.
Yeah.
And, like, that whole thing, because that's the longest section he gets to talk, like, all at once.
Yeah.
Where he's, like, describing the carnival and this and that, like, he fucking nailed it.
Yeah, he really did. That scene was good. And I guess it's a little disappointing because it sets it up and you think you're going to get more of this, but you don't.
It's just the visual after that. Most of the rest of the movie, they didn't give him, like, he chewed it up literally and metaphorically in that scene. Like,
right.
I wanted to see more of that. I'm expecting to see more of that.
Yeah,
what?
I said well played.
Was that better or worse than my line about Merlin last week?
It was better. Better. Anyway, good. I
threw you off your game.
You really did. Like, good movie. Yeah, but now, At what cost? Christ.
Yeah, my intention was not to throw you off. It was like to give everyone the full picture. Like,
oh God,
what the fuck happened?
Kind of raised more questions than you answered there.
Oh, I did not set out to answer questions. I just set out to inform the listener.
I almost feel obligated to read the book now to make sure that I can get this full story.
I'm sure if you look it up, you can find it, man.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to do that. But all right, yeah. You got anything else? I'm good.
No, I mean, other than that, I agree with you that I like the way that they actually finished it with the blood oath.
Yeah.
And the whole thing, I thought they were going to give it one of those, like, Guardians of the Galaxy 2, like, that unspoken thing as our closer, and instead, like, if I remember correctly, right, Beverly kisses Bill, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Bill kisses her.
I was surprised that they actually committed to that right then and there.
Right. Knowing what you know now, are you surprised?
Yeah, because
they could have all had sex in the sewer.
Knowing what I know now, it's like, why did niggas have a full penetration sex scene?
So terrible. Oh my God. Did we decide on a movie for next week?
Well, actually, I meant to ask you about that. Because next weekend we were planning on recording as well, right?
Yes.
And we were going to do
Thor
and The Foreigner?
Yeah. Did you see The Foreigner yet?
No, I was going to try and see that before next weekend.
Okay.
Unless do you want to do The Foreigner next week?
I think we should do The Foreigner next week.
And then we could do Thor. We could pick another movie topic, and we can do our other long-awaited episode.
Yes, I think that'll be the case. So The Foreigner next week. That's the goal.
Next week.
Sounds good. I like it. Well, that's it for this week's Flix in the Six. Thank you for joining us on this adventure. It was I'm sorry. I'm sorry about what happened at the end there. I am off right now. You knocked me off. I don't know. I'm screwed up.
For some crazy reason, we're not listening to this with headphones on, or we're listening in a public place. You know that we have language in this. Please don't listen to this anymore if we're talking about child pornography. That's all I'm saying.
That was.
Like, make sure you're listening. It's not safe for work content.
Check out Spinchoon.com each week for new content. Next week, we'll be doing The Foreigner. But that's it. I'm out. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time, cheers. Jesus Christ.